First, Dylan, we're going to take a look at your swing in slow motion. Now we're going to look at your swing in a few of the key important positions. On the right, I have Grant Waite, PGA Tour player. Now, he's a right-handed player, but I flipped him around to the left-handed position. Before watching this video, I had recommended that you watch the comprehensive video on all the fundamentals. Grant Waite was the model of that video. And we're not going to cover all of those fundamentals in that video. We're just going to look at a few of the positions and identify a couple of missing fundamentals that you can work on right now. I certainly don't want you working on 10 things. We just need to work on a few things that's the most important for you to focus on right now. The first position we're going to look at is not the beginning position, but the impact position. The impact position is the most important. Everything the ball does after it leaves the face of the club is a response to the laws of physics and motion that existed during that fraction of a second that ball was on the club. So we need to look at your form at impact. The club's position at impact is simply a response to how you have positioned your body at impact. And if the club is wrong, then your form is wrong. Now first let's look at the position in the arms. Grant's forward arm, his right arm is extended and it's in line with the shaft of the club. And it's also tilted. It's not straight up and down, but that line is leaning towards the target. That allows him to put his hands in front of the golf ball. I talked about the importance of keeping the low point of your golf swing in front of the golf ball when the ball is on the ground, that you cannot hit it solid unless you hit the ball first and then the ground. And so everything you do is designed to help achieve that. So at impact, you need to have your hands in front of the ball. Now let's look at your setup. You have a little bit of a bend here. It's just slightly bowed back a little bit, and you have a little bit of a shaft lean. If I drew a line straight up from Grant's, let me clear that other stuff here real quick. If I drew a line straight up from Grant's front foot and then one straight up from your front foot, you can see how Grant is leaning past that line. This green line passes right through his belt buckle. The average pro will have 85% of their weight on that front foot at impact. That's the best way to assure that your low point is in front of the golf ball so that you can hit down into it. You can kind of see all of this dirt here from the divots he's been hitting, from the shots he's been hitting. All of that is in front of the golf ball. So when you see the pros take a divot on tour and you're watching TV and you see that dirt fly after hitting an iron, that dirt was in front of the ball, not at the ball or behind the golf ball. So everything you do before impact is to try to achieve this impact position that Grant is in. This impact position is critical, and it's the most important. Now let's look at your positions before impact, because everything you do before impact is designed to help you achieve a fundamentally sound impact position. So now let's take a look at your one position. First, Grant here. He's got a nice extension in that right arm, right down to the shaft. In fact, it's pretty obvious here that he basically starts his swing almost in a little mini pre-impact position. He sets this arm and club behind the golf ball almost in the same position he would like it to be in at impact. So his setup is designed to help him achieve a good impact position. His hands are slightly in front of the golf ball at the address position. His weight is a little bit more, if I drew a line from the center of both feet, his weight is a little bit more on the front foot than the back foot. So he has moved his center of gravity more forward, and that also helps him place the low point of his swing in front of that golf ball. So he does two important things in the setup to help him achieve a good impact position. He has his hands forward, he has a shaft lean, and he has his weight forward. Now you also have a very good extension here. So that's excellent. If we drew a line up from your feet, you're a little bit more balanced between your feet. Your weight is evenly distributed between the 2 feet, more centered. I would like you to have a small shift. I'd like you to keep your head here, but move your lower body, move this hip just a little bit this direction, so that you feel like you have a little bit more weight on this front foot. That'll help you have a better impact position. The other thing to notice here is Grant will flare his front foot out a little bit. He'll turn that just a little bit out. What that does is it helps him achieve that impact position where 85% of his weight is on that front foot at impact. If he's going to be moving that much weight to this front foot, he needs to make sure that it's not making that pressure is not on the outside of that ankle, but more on the front of the ankle, front of the foot. It'll make it easier to shift that weight to that front foot if it's flared out a little bit. Now here we are at the 3 position. This is when the right arm is parallel to the ground, halfway back. You can see how Grant has maintained a nice extension in his arm. Likewise, you have a nice extension in your arm. That's very good. Grant hinges his wrist a little bit more than you. A lot of the power in your golf swing comes from loading these hands properly. And if you hinge the wrist properly and load those hands properly, you store a lot of energy, and the more you can load, the more you have to unload at impact. You haven't quite loaded your hands as much, and that will diminish a little bit some of the power that you could generate. You could hit the ball a little bit further with less effort if you learn to properly hinge these hands. One of the things we did not really cover in this first session is your grip, but certainly early on in the development of your swing, we need to make sure you have a perfect grip so that you can achieve all these good positions. The other thing that we can easily notice here, I'll draw a straight line up off that front foot. Grant started his swing with most of his weight on this front foot, and he has kept it there. In fact, if anything, you can almost sense that he is kind of pushing forward. He's almost pressing down into the ground. This knee here is flexing downward, whereas the back leg is extending. So as one leg flexes, the other leg extends. This does a couple of really good things. One, it loads up this front leg so that when he arrives at impact, he can push up and push off that ground and get some power but also it helps keep the golf swing in a circle. It takes it around, rotates that club and the arms around behind him a little bit more so he can have a proper swing plane. You have a tendency to just shift and laterally, and you take the golf club off the circle. You don't retain a circle in your swing. So we're going to learn how to stay centered with your body on this front leg and rotate around it so that you have a powerful circular swing. Here we are at the top of the backswing, and you're going to see a lot of the same fundamentals at play here that we saw in the 3 position. This is known as the 4 position. Grant has not only maintained that weight on that front foot, it is continuing to increase as he continues to press down even more into this front leg. The other thing is, if we look at this angle, he has, I'll put a line on the right on both arms. This angle here is fully at a right angle here. His forearm is actually not as far back as yours, but his club is further back than yours. And that's because he has loaded his hands more. He's hinged his wrists more. You don't quite achieve that right angle. One of the reasons that you swing your arms so far back and way up is that you're trying to achieve a certain feeling of power. And since you're not getting that feeling of power in a proper wrist hinge, your subconscious mind feels like it has to pull the arms even further back to get that sense of power. If you loaded your hands better, you would be satisfied with the power load much quicker and sooner, and you would have a more compact and consistent swing because you wouldn't swing your arms back quite so much, because you would learn how to get the power out of your hands and not so much out of lifting your arms off your chest. So correcting the grip and learning how to properly hinge the wrist will be a critical early fundamental that we need to work on. And we can notice that you're still more on that back foot than you are the front foot. So in general, the overall backswing that you need to work on is one where you stay with your weight on your front foot. You want to start with your weight a little bit on your front foot and then learn how to rotate the club around you without moving your weight away from that foot. Because when you get your weight this far back, then your low point is way back here. If you tried to swing at the ball and keep your foot on this back, keep your weight on this back foot, you would hit behind the ball a lot. And so you have actually a more complicated swing, because now you've got to try to learn how to time your weight shift back to this front line so that you move that low point in front of the ball in order to hit it solid. So instead of you're trying to rotate and slide to the back, whereas Grant is not having to deal with sliding and rocking to the left and rocking to the right. He just turns and stays centered. This is the 5 position. This is when the right arm is parallel to the ground on the downswing. Just a couple things to make note of here. Grant has actually increased the load in his hands on the way down. At the top of his backswing, he had about a right angle. At the top of the backswing, he had about that kind of an angle in the shaft and the arm. But on the way down, that has increased even more. He has loaded his hands even more on the downswing, giving him more stored energy to unload into the golf ball. And you have actually decreased the load. You had a little more load at the top of your swing, and it is a little bit less on the way down. So there's a particular way of moving from the top of the swing to the initial downswing where you can at least hold that energy and not what we call cast it and start throwing the club out before you get to the golf ball. You want to hold and wait for that action in your hands before you get to the golf ball. And Grant continues to move to the ball. You're starting to move a little bit more to the front foot than you were at the top of the swing, so that's good. Here we are in the sixth position. This is when the club is parallel to the ground. And if you can have a really good sixth position, it's certainly easier to have a good seventh position. So this is an important position. One of the things that we want to focus on or notice is that this forearm is basically at right angle to the shaft of the club. Grant's hands are basically right in front of his thigh. His hands are in front of his back foot. Your forearm is angled here, and your hands are behind your back foot. In the sixth position, Grant is basically has his weight on that front foot. He has almost 85% of his weight on his front foot even before he gets to impact. Now we are back to the impact position. We're not going to go over that again, but we're going to look at now the post-impact positions and look at your form after you've hit the ball. This is the ninth position. This is a post-impact position. It's when the left arm is parallel to the ground. I want to focus on the arms and hands. Notice that Grant has his wrists crossed. His glove, the right hand is below the left hand. You can see that little bit of white there. That's showing that his other hand is underneath the left hand. Your right hand is above the left hand. Where Grant is keeping his elbows close together, you are kind of separating your elbows here, and this right arm is kind of rising up off your body. And once you have the proper grip and you learn how it correctly should feel to hinge your wrist properly, you will achieve this position that Grant is demonstrating. That's a critical fundamental to learn, is how to use the hands during a golf swing. Grant is off of this back foot. You're starting to do that. This knee is starting to come up closer to the other leg. I like the fact that you are tilted back the way Grant is. That looks very good. It's just that Grant has his belt buckle, the front of his body is on top of this foot here. His left back pocket has rotated. His left front pocket is rotated, and if you drew a line from that pocket down, it would go right over his foot. Here's your left pocket, and it's still hanging back here, and we need that left pocket to rotate and turn so it's right on top of this front foot. Now this is a post-impact position. The ball's already left the club. So one could say, well, this position doesn't have any real purpose. It doesn't have any real impact on what the golf ball did because the ball's already gone. But in reality, this is a reflection of what did occur at impact. in that if you can achieve, the only way you can achieve this look after impact is to be in a certain position at impact. So we can learn a lot about our impact position by looking at our post-impact positions. Now here we are at the final pose, the 10th position, and you'll see that Grant is in this classic pose. He basically has 95%, maybe closer to 99% of his weight on this front foot. He could literally almost lift this back foot up and tap his toe. He's in that classic position where this foot is just straight up and down. He's totally facing the target. His knees are side by side. You haven't, all during the swing, you've kept a little bit too much weight on your back foot, and so you never were able to quite get to the front foot even at your finish. Whereas Grant has the center of his body going right through on top of that foot. He's pushing his belt buckle forward. As he has just a little bit of an arch in his back here. Now what's interesting, if I were to just look at your finish, look at everything from waist up, if we just looked at your form above this box, it looks very close to what Grant looks like. So what you're doing with your upper body is pretty close to a fundamentally sound movement. We just need to work on your lower body so that your lower body looks more like Grant. Your upper body already does. Now that concludes our swing report for the full swing. As we continue to work on your swing, we will identify and work on some of these fundamentals that I pointed out. You can't work on 10 things at once. We just need to work on 1 or 2 fundamentals. You need to learn your fundamentals in a proper sequence. You need to learn the golf swing a piece at a time, and you need to learn them in the proper sequence. And that's what we'll be doing in the future.